Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack. Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Oh, baby, we are back. We got cars on the track. We got Bowman Grey, maybe snowmobiles on the track. We'll see. We got NASCAR dropping a pretty noticeable bomb on us today. Usually they wait until like we've recorded and then it's like 4 days down the road and then they give us the nuggets. So it's nice to have that to talk about. And Brian, we are very lucky today. Something that's been a long time coming. Our guy Phil Eastman is here. Full Tank with Phil is the podcast. I'll give you a couple chances to pimp that out because it is a must listen. We are gonna talk some trucks today. You also see him on the draft each and every Wednesday night with our guy Ryan Stevens, with Tino Patino. Very excited to have Phil join the podcast. What's up, Phil?
Kyle, Brian, this is I'm honored that you guys thought of me here as the season's starting up. I mean, you mentioned like long time coming. I definitely have been thinking of trying to get you guys on my shows. You know, last year, guests are tough to kind of nail down on my end because I'm just like never sure where I'm going to record. I'm thrilled that we can make this happen, and it's a pleasure. So thank you so much. I'm excited to talk about trucks and whatever news we have to get into here on this season, off season type episode. But I feel like this conversation is going to be fun and it's going to get me even more pumped up for this year. Yeah.
So we're going to talk some trucks. We're going to talk some Cup. We're going to talk potentially Bowman Grey if we get it. But Brian, Twining, nugget dropped. I mentioned to you guys before the podcast, but it's almost like the NASCAR execs got in a room and thought of ways to keep Shane Van Gisbergen out of the playoffs. The oval is out. Phil, can you? Is the chase a playoff format or is it the chase and it's not a playoff? And they want to make sure that we're not saying playoff.
I think if we didn't just go through the years that we just had, playoff would be acceptable. But right now, it's just a dirty word. So
okay. I can work with that. I can work with that. With the chase format, Brian Twining, the Roval is gone. The oval is here, reducing the number of road course or road course adjacent tracks on the schedule, which I think, if you polled the NASCAR fan base as a whole, some of the big things, removing the playoffs, checked, getting rid of so many road courses, another check. The oval is here. Are we excited? Are we just excited that it's not a road course? Or are we actually optimistic that the oval can produce some fun racing and, more importantly, some bettable racing so we can have fun at the window?
Initial reaction is thank the Lord that we've gotten rid of the Roval. We get quite possibly, one of the top 3 tracks on the schedule in terms of the racing product that it puts on. I mean, ever since the introduction of the next gen car, it's fairly apparent that the intermediate package at these 1.5s is the top of the line racing that we have in the sport right now. So it makes sense to have us go back to Charlotte at the oval. Now, that being said, I do think it does a disservice to the sport that we have 4 road courses and all of them are in the regular season. We don't have a single one during the postseason or chase format. And it just kind of eliminates the meaning of those events during the regular season to me.
Yeah, Phil, do you think that it's more of like a novelty at this point, not having it in the road course or not having road courses in the playoffs? Or do you think it's appropriate because when it comes to brass tacks, we want the best drivers and intermediate tracks are like the true test of NASCAR and the best example of what the sport can be?
Yeah. So I was thrilled, obviously, like a lot of people, that Roval was dead. I was surprised how many people were saying that same thing, Brian. Like, I'm upset we don't have a road course in the, basically saying like they wish the Roval was still around in a lot of ways. I think that if they didn't just make this change, if the playoff system was the same as last year, then I would kind of tend to agree because like it's a very fast-paced type playoff system where you got to have your skills on every angle, every type of track. But with this new format, you can't take a week off. And I think it matters a lot less. Like you have to be good on road courses. There's 4 of them. So if you suck 4 times, that's really going to impact your chances on winning the championship, regardless if it's in the regular season or in the chase. So I think this playoff format or chase format.
See, I got you doing it too.
Dollar in the jar. Same with O'Reilly. So the format of the postseason is kind of giving us, a little bit better glimpse. Like, okay, it doesn't matter as much to me personally. I'm fine with it. I hated the Roval so much. I don't think there was a single good race at the Roval. Like they had the exciting ones, like the spin outs at the end and all, but I don't think there was ever a good race. And so I'm pumped about this. They're making many decisions that it's like, hey, maybe we should just like make people happy. Like this is many decisions in a row. Like it's really crazy. It's not
just waiting for the other shoe to drop to see what the ramifications. I do think, as we look 27, 28, there's a lot of potential about, well, maybe the chases, we'll see how they tweak it based on how this year goes, how it could evolve throughout the year. Maybe they do some more adjustments where they have, it's hard because Coda and Sonoma are in such unique places, but maybe that's an opportunity where early in the year, instead of starting out in Florida, having all those rainouts and all those water issues, they pick those 2 tracks and they can actually get them in earlier, or they figure out a way to kind of sprinkle the road courses. We'll see, obviously we got San Diego this year, but what that road course looks like next, in the future years, if they find ways to kind of interact with that. But I did think it was interesting. Obviously, it's going to be compelling to talk about. And it'll be fun to see how these guys evolve and what that means as we get towards the end of the season. But let's talk some trucks. Corey Heim dominated last year. Yeah. Sports books are hesitant to put out odds. Obviously, that's what we want to talk about, is being able to make money off of this. It seems like those offerings are going to be limited. There's a 7 race chase with the trucks. Do we worry that we need to have markets for betting second, third, fourth because it's not going to be as fun? Or where's your head at going into the season, Phil?
Well, I mean, I really wish that we had something to chew on as gamblers. It's we were talking a little bit before the show started, as the reason maybe why, like there are still a lot of things that need to fall into place. Like the series is shaping up to be, in my opinion, one of the best seasons from a fan standpoint, but they also don't have their shit together a lot. There's still crew chief assignments that need to be made. There are still open slots that need to be kind of identified. So maybe that's a reason. But as far as where my head's at for the season, I could not be more excited. Like trucks is my favorite series. I've said it a bunch of different times, but your audience maybe hasn't heard me before. So I'll say it again. Like it's the perfect combination. You don't see this on a nationally televised scale, any other sport, where you've got young guys trying to make it. You've got veterans coming back down, and then you got lifers in the middle. It's the perfect group, and to see them all clash. And that's what makes it fun to me. So this season, more than ever, we've got so much craziness in the rosters, and I'm beyond excited. So I couldn't be more pumped. I just wish we had something to really chew on, because I got one guy, we'll probably go through various drivers here, but there's one guy that I really am excited about for this season. So
and Brian, like Phil mentioned, there's a variety of names. We got the Corey LaJoys of the world. We got Ben Rhodes and Stuart Friesen, who've been doing this for a little while. You have your guy Raja Karuth, who's trying to make his way up into next levels and kind of progress through it. There's definitely a pay to play mentality with some of these guys who've been around for a long time, but it's also cool to see the younger guys get a foot in, get a step in, and it's a kind of a unique way to kind of see a different form of racing. Brian, are you excited for trucks this year and hope that we get some excitement and more importantly get some odds to reflect that?
Yeah, I think this is the most excited I've been for a truck season. I mean, last year going into it, the expectation was Corey Heim was just going to spank the field, which he did. He went out there in the 11 truck and just every week it was Heim time, outside of, somebody else ruining his race or his truck literally shutting off like we saw at Homestead early in the season. And to me, that kind of like moves on to the next conversation. Does Honeycutt immediately step into a truck that's just that much better than the field? And can he pick up where Corey left off? Or is the fact that NASCAR opened up the amount of races that, say, Cup guys and I almost said it, Xfinity, O'Reilly guys are able to do in the lower series, is that going to make the sport exponentially more exciting on a week-to-week basis, where it's harder to pinpoint like, oh yeah, this guy's just going to kick the shit out of everybody, where like last year, whereas now you have all these guys making one-off appearances, a couple times a year leading into the 7-race chase.
Yeah, that's a great point about the Cup Series guys and O'Reilly guys coming down. We've seen it though, and we've seen it's just going to happen more, which is great. But like we've had the Kyle Bushes of the world who in the past were dominant. We see Ross Chastain all the time come down. That's great. It's great for the sport. It's great for, the gambling side of things because it keeps things fun. But I do think that, the Truck Series guys, I mean, we'll talk about Honeycutt, like you mentioned. We look at the 42 when Hocevar left. Matt Mills came in. You're like, this is a varsity ride. Did nothing. He's out of a ride. You look at the 38 when Zane Smith left. It took a little while, but front row. Right away though, it was not a just hop in the ride and just go. Same thing with Hemrick last year in the 19. Right? These were all varsity rides, big time rides, like sought after equipment, and there was a learning curve there. I think this is the best situation we have of someone hopping in the car and going because of how he ended the year last year in Stuart Friesen's truck.
Yeah.
What he did there totally changed my vibe heading into this year. Like amazing. Finished the season, 3 top 10s, 2 top 5s, like really performing well. And a truck that was not good with Friesen. So I think all of that lends like, yeah, he's a pretty good driver and now he's going to be in good equipment. Well, I high expectations for him for sure.
Yeah, sounds like it's a little more like JRM and Xfinity than it is for like, just okay, well, we got to figure it out, see where we can get. Hopefully everything kind of clicks together. So sounds like you're a little optimistic. What is your expectations for Ram entering the truck world? And does that do you think about like it's a new truck, people got to figure it out, it's going to take time? Do you think this is exciting because more blood's coming in and hopefully more money? Like where's your head at in terms of their entrance into the sport or re-entrance into the sport as it goes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to chop this up with you guys because I've got a lot of thoughts. For one, instantly super excited because I think that Kaulig is making such a cool, open, in front of everyone business decision. And that is so rare in sports, like to kind of just make a tough call and make it so out in the open that the way they're doing this, put a pin in like, how is this going to affect the Cup Series team? If AJ wins a race, all that money's going to Dodge. So, and trying to get that team up and running, but that's another conversation. I'm pumped for them. And I love their driver lineup. I love everything they're doing. I love Daniel Dye. I think he did great in his last year in trucks, like making improvement, making the playoffs, taking steps forward. I thought he was decent in Xfinity. Butterbean Queen, he's a short track guy. It's going to be a fan favorite. That's a great choice in a driver. And then you got Justin Haley, one of those guys that I said earlier, coming back down, taking an ego, hit. We'll see what he can do. He's out to prove something. an all-star truck with guys like Tony Stewart or whatever they're calling it, free agent, and then the drive for the seat reality show driver. It's just so many cool things. It feels like they're just hitting a home run here, and they're going to have everything that Dodge has to throw at it. And so you would hope that they're fast. The downside, and I want to kick it to you guys to see, if you would agree, the one thing I'm scared about is if they do miss it off the jump. This format doesn't help them, right? If this was last year they came into the system, they could screw up a bunch in the beginning of the season, and it wouldn't matter. They could just, go win a race here and there. If you're bad off the jump, especially in trucks, short season, it's going to take a lot to make up for it towards the end of the year. So I'm hoping that they can kind of stabilize through the months of February, March, and then we'll really start to see Dodge come alive. But couldn't be more excited for colleague and happy that they're doing this.
I think that's a phenomenal point in terms of like getting behind the 8 ball quickly and just being out to lunch. Because as you get into lower levels, especially in trucks, there is a huge gap between the haves and the have-nots. And everybody else is just playing around in this kiddie pool over here while there's a handful of guys that are really going for it. And you have 7 races. You got to get in that points, and hopefully, they can figure it out quickly. But yeah, if they struggle early and we're all of a sudden into March and April and May and they're still trying to figure it out, it could be gone. Where at least in the other format, there was a winning in and there was an opportunity there. So, I don't know. I do think long term it could be fun, but they do have to, I think doing the things that they're doing is really smart, because even if things don't go well from a championship type season, they have the fun names. Oh, I remember Tony Stewart. I remember. And you have the reality show piece where it's like, I could get really invested in somebody who's in trucks. And then all of a sudden, maybe they're figuring stuff out and that guy gets to jump to Xfinity. And then I'm excited about that series. And then in maybe 5 years, that guy's a cup driver and I can be a fan there. And it's like kind of a buildup. And that's, I think, a big part of what like Drive to Survive and some of these other reality shows is giving you a little more. I know it's F1. I'm just saying in general, the more you get to know the driver, the more excited you're going to be, the more passion you're going to put. And when you do that in lower level, it's going to bring more passion, more of those cup fans down. Hey, it's Friday night. That guy from the reality show's racing. We should go watch. And they're watching a truck race that they might not normally watch.
Yeah. And I think I'll just add, personally, I think if this was a team that was re-entering the series with an already established manufacturer, I'd be worried about them kind of cannibalizing themselves, because you do have a group of drivers all at like different stages of their careers, whether it's Justin Haley, who's been in Cup, dropping all the way back down the trucks, or Daniel Dye, who was trying in Xfinity, having to come back down the trucks, or Butterbean, finally finding his first full-time ride in NASCAR. So they're all trying to move back up in certain ways. But the fact that it's with Dodge, who's clearly going all in on Colleague, and like you were saying, Phil, they're getting the full support of Ram here, Colleague is. And so Ram is going to put forth whatever funds are necessary for this team to try to be successful. And when you look at the truck series in reality, you have the 11 truck and then McAnally and Thor Sport, who, Majeski, he's fast, but it's not consistent last year. And then McAnally, we don't really know what we're going to get out of them on a week-to-week basis either. So I'm a little less worried about the performance of the trucks and more so about like a guy like Butterbean, coming into the sport first time, and then seeing how aggressive Justin Haley gets with he's kind of in his like prove it season here. So.
Yeah, traditionally, like how for guys that are coming down to like prove it, how does that work out? Because I feel like you get more aggressive, you try and do dumb stuff that you wouldn't normally do. Maybe you try and take gambles that aren't there. The car is obviously going to ride different. Like how is that? How do you envision that working out for someone like a Justin Haley or a Daniel Dye?
So in years past, guys more recently that we can kind of pull from, Ty Dillon did it. And he went to Rackley War. That it really depends on the team.
Yeah.
Ty Dillon did it, Rackley War, not great. But he found his way back up to Cup for other reasons, probably. We saw Matt DiBenedetto drop all the way down, and he, I just think he ran out of talent. So the one success that I can pull to recently is John Hunter Nemechek, because he was floating up there. He had some decent rides, took a shot in Cup, got bumped all the way back down, and he performed really well at that time. And so he was on a good team. I think he was clearly a good driver. There was nothing really against him. He was young enough where he could still, and now look at him, right? He's a sleeper in the Cup Series for, top 15s, top 10s each week. And I think Justin Haley has that kind of same build, as long as I think he's more so John Hunter than he is Ty Dillon. If that makes sense, if we're putting it on a spectrum.
Yeah, or Matt D. Like, there is a world where he's just Matt D. Benedetto and stays in trucks, and that's just kind of who he becomes over. And he's 26. Like, he's at a point where he has a couple more years where he can move back up. But like, if it's 29, 30, and he's still in trucks and he's just whatever, like, there's a world where he kind of washes out or just isn't really someone we think about on a week-to-week basis. So I am really, really curious. So I guess, Phil, let's go here. Who should we be focused on? Who are those drivers that are going to make us money? Guys that we should be excited about? Maybe not week one, but maybe we're talking, March, April, and we're like, oh, top 5 or, a nice payout and a top 3. And maybe there's a win possibility here. Like, who are the names that are getting you excited?
Well, I'm hoping that when we see that, when you were ripping through some of the teams and the drivers earlier, there was a name not mentioned, and it's the guy that I'm most excited about for the odds to drop, because I'm hoping that I can get Lane Riggs at a number that is conducive for the gambler. I was going through earlier this week because I knew we were going to be talking trucks, and I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around, trying to have a little fun, some coffee in the morning. And the schedule, I looked at just last year. I'm not going through this year week by week yet, but looking at last year, short tracks and flat tracks, there's like a group of 9 of those. So, combining all short tracks and flat tracks up to Nashville length. And then the 4.5-mile racetracks that they've been to. So that's 13 races. All right. Breaking those out like that, Corey Heim obviously is Corey Heim. But Lane Riggs, again, we are now in a model where you have to be consistent. He had 1 DNF all year. Check that box. That's great to see. He ended the year before on a hot streak and then proved that he can be a very good Truck Series driver. Was screwed over by the system last year in the playoff format. So then you look at the 9 short tracks or flat tracks. Lane Riggs in those 9 races, 8 top 5 finishes. That's consistent. And then you look at the 4.5 miles, and he's got 3 top 5 finishes out of those 4. This is a driver who I absolutely think, without a Corey Heim, and guys, it's not even close, compared to the other guys. If you're just looking at top 5s, if you top 5 people to death, you are going to put yourself in a great spot for a 7-race chase. And he's got all the tools, and we're not including, he's pretty decent on super speedways. He can get things done. Road courses, he's a more complete driver, especially after, these last couple of years. I think we need to watch out for Lane Riggs. Without a Corey Heim, I think he's somebody who, there's no moving parts, right? He's not coming back down. He's not changing teams. He's not dealing with a new OEM or anything like that. He is right where he wants to be. And that is, to me, the recipe for a championship run. So I'm hoping, guys, that we can get him at a decent clip.
Yeah. That sounds like a fun bet. So we're thinking potential championship odds. we're talking maybe week to week where there's going to be opportunities at the shorter, flatter ones. Maybe we get in at a mile and a half like that. That sounds fun to me, Brian.
Yeah, I felt kind of foolish after I finished what I was saying, completely forgetting about both of those guys, Lane Riggs and Chandler Smith, who at times showed tremendous speed, but he just couldn't put together races. And going back to your point, Phil, about Lane Riggs, how good he was. Mind you, a lot of those results came in races where his pit crew absolutely screwed him over, maybe numerous times during a race as well. So if they were able to make any sort of improvement in that part of the team, he could go out and have a season. I don't want to say similar to what Corey Heim did, because that's probably never going to be duplicated, but somewhere in that range of like 6 to 8 wins constantly up front throughout the year. And then it'll really come down to what Honeycutt does in the higher powered vehicle of the 11. And to your point, like, obviously I would hope for anything like plus 350 or 4-1 for the championship for Lane Riggs. But if we're looking at what they're doing in Cup, are getting smart with this, I would venture to guess he's probably going to open in that like 2, maybe 2.25 range for the championship.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see if they just see the 11 truck and give it the odds, or if they adjust accordingly. It will be compelling, and maybe we don't get that number from a championship perspective, but we're hitting it top 3, top 5 outrights each week, and more than figuring it out.
The other guy that you could look at, and you could kind of split this either way, right? If we were a debate club, I'd be fine taking either side of this, but Christian Eck is coming back. Like, Christian Eckes was him and Heim every week last time he was in the Truck Series. So he could easily, in my mind, jump back down and be the same Christian Eckes that he was. He's going to the same team. He's not driving the 19, which doesn't make sense to me, but he, the 91, whatever. It's going to drive me nuts all year.
That was going to be the caveat I was going to add, is like, it's not the same number, so it's going to be so strange to see him out on the track.
He's looking on the track. Where's the 19? Where's the 19? And it's like, no, it's the 19.
It doesn't make sense to me why they would do that, but I think he easily could come back, same shop. Hey guys, let's do this, and be that guy again. Like, he's coming into a Truck Series world without Corey Heim. So as long as Corey Heim doesn't somehow miraculously jump into the 5 truck, but
oh my goodness,
in any, we won't put that in the ether, but he could do that. Now, the other side of that is there's too many cooks in the kitchen at McAnally, and they just don't have the race shop to be able to handle that. I'm very anxious to see that. So the books could either see Christian Eckes and be like, oh, he was a big dog, let's throw him to the top of the board, which is fine by us, or they ignore him and we get him at a longer number. I think it's going to be one of those two. I don't think it's going to be a number where it's like, like, I think we might, see Christian Eckes kind of polarized by the book. So he has my full attention heading into the season. I'm cheering for him. I like Christian Eckes.
All right, well, you heard it here first, folks. Like,
yeah, Eckes and Riggs, write those names down. And I think you're going to want to shop around a little bit, because I think there could be like one book could value the 11 truck, right? One book could see Eckes, oh, he used to be dominant. Let's put his numbers back up. Another one be like, oh, he's coming down. He's a different guy. It's whatever. Like, I would definitely shop around, especially in a market as volatile as trucks, where there's a few people really moving stuff. Shop around, find the best value. Is there anyone else before we shift focus and talk a little Cup that you're maybe not for the championship, but you're going to be looking at? This guy could be a top 3 at good spots, could be a top 5, could be more of a dark horse that if the odds post super long for championships that you could be interested in, or maybe not in a season long perspective, but just like each week you're going to be looking and hoping to get decent numbers on placements, on matchups, on other opportunities.
I'll say, I'll answer it in a way that I think satisfies the question, but also kind of leans into like a separate topic, which is Thor Sport. Because Thor Sport's in a weird spot. Yeah. So the answer to my question would be Jake Garcia, or to your question. Jake Garcia is somebody that I've had my eyes on now. I took a long shot championship bet on him 2 years ago, did not pan out. But then he started to show a little life last year, like a little bit. He is someone in the past who has had long shot top 5 odds, because we don't get top 10s in trucks, where he's put up fights. He's qualified well. He's given us some closing line value. And so like that's enough for me to be like, all right, yeah, I'm interested. He's now going to be driving the 98. Not that numbers mean anything, but like that's a sought after number, I guess. It's like kind of a big deal. We've got Majeski moving to the 88 with Craftsman out of there. Thor Sport needs a bounce back season. If Craftsman out of there, it's really a Majeski's team. And he is, even though DNFs don't say it, to me, Majeski is so inconsistent. Like he'll be running dominant and then finish 10th. It's like, all right, that's not going to cut it in this format, Ty. And so, Thor Sport and Ben Rhodes had 6 DNFs last year. He is on my big time concern level. I don't know what's going on with him. They got a new guy coming up. Maybe he could be like a Gio Ruggiero. Cole Butcher is his name. He's driving the 13 truck, the cursed truck. But he's got a Ty Majeski type background coming up from the same series. And so like he could be somebody like Gio last year, where Gio Ruggiero was a very sneaky top 5 pick, very great rookie last year for Tricon. So maybe we'll have our eyes on him, but Jake Garcia is someone that I fully hope and would expect to make strides forward, even though the field is getting tougher. If he's got a career, he's got to show something. And so maybe, week to week, long shot top 5s for Jake would hit more than they have in the years past. That's I'm hoping.
I like that. For more stuff from Phil, tell them where they can find your podcast and get more information on trucks before we transition to Cup.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you having me on to talk trucks. Full Tank with Phil is the name of the podcast. You can find me, wherever you're listening to this. And my YouTube channel is where, I usually put out a video for the truck stuff. So it's just Full Tank with Phil podcast on YouTube. And then when the race, every Wednesday, sometimes I'll sneak some truck talk into the draft show with Ryan and Tino. So yeah, all those places. And of course on X, throw some stuff out there if I can't put a truck video out.
Yeah. I'll add one more thing too. Phil did an awesome silly season show with old host of the NASCAR betting preview show, our buddy Derek Yoder and Chris from the Flag Hunting pod. That's out now. I would highly recommend going to look at that. They go over like every single move that happened in all 3 series, and it's like an hour and a half long. I sat there. It was great for middle of the day work. Great listen. Really insightful stuff, because there's so much that happened this offseason with roster moves and stuff like that I couldn't keep up. So
I appreciate that.
Especially as you dive into the lower series, it's definitely good. And with a break between now and the Super Bowl, we got plenty of time for content. So it's no better time to jump in. But let's jump to Cup, where we can talk a little big picture stuff. Phil, Brian and I did a little preview last week. We'll have more of a predictions show next week. But who's compelling to you in this new format? Is there somebody that maybe you wouldn't have considered before that you're a little more optimistic on? Or is it just like 3 or 4 names, cancel everyone else out, and, figuring out top 10s and whatever week to week is one thing, but like from a championship perspective, it's Larson, it's Byron, it's Log Out.
Byron would be my first name that I mentioned, which is it's not a sexy call out or anything like that. Like, wow, what a great mind Phil is. But, Byron has been so consistent on every track type. It doesn't matter. And you could say the same for Larson as well, but he has been screwed by this format that they've been in over these years in certain years. So I am excited to see what Byron can do with a chase format. Points matter, wins, are jacked up. I think this is kind of like his time. Like this is an opportunity for him. The name, so from a championship odds too, like it kind of sucks because what are we going to do? I don't think the championship odds are going to shift around very much. So there's no need anymore to like snag a guy early.
So we were talking a little bit about that last week. We do wonder, especially as the season rolls along, if the Larson, the Hamlin, the Bell maybe start to separate themselves from kind of the rest of the field. If those 5, 6 numbers become like 2 or 3. And so if you really want, if maybe you put half your bet on it and then you kind of wait and see, but like we definitely aren't going to get longer. It just, we're wondering how quickly books will adjust to the top tier guys and making them shorter. And that's kind of our, because like I'd rather sit on my money for another 6 months and not have to hold future tickets on these guys if I'm going to get the same number in June or July. I just worry that when we get there, those numbers are like plus 250 or 3-1 because they're so clearly in the chase and among the top, handful of drivers.
I would have originally guessed that they wouldn't shift around until maybe like the Coke 600, like Memorial Day is where like we start to see some separation. And so like, that's when I would feel like, okay, now's the time to take a shot on a guy like that. If they start moving guys around after Daytona and Atlanta and like what are we doing? There's nothing to prove, there.
Yeah,
so
but I think once we get to Vegas and Phoenix and some of those tracks, I think we could
maybe.
Maybe. The point that I was bringing up when we recorded last week was just the fact that books last year, when they opened these odds, if I'm not mistaken, like Larson could be had at 5-1 at certain books for last year's championship. And if you were to poll most NASCAR bettors or even fans, like who's the favorite to win the championship, despite the fact we have to go through this playoff format where if you have a shitty race and you DNF, you have a chance of being eliminated, people would have looked at Larson and contemplated playing that 5 number. Now, when we go into a format where there is no eliminations, you can essentially have a DNF if you're a guy like Larson, who's probably going to be competing for numerous race wins or being top 3, top 5 in that 10 race stretch and still survive, especially if he does what he usually does in the regular season and he's competing for the regular season championship. And so to me, like when you look at these numbers, like you said, I don't think they're really going to get longer, but I do think there is a chance, as you said, around the Coke 600 time, when we get to the springtime, early summer, that some of these guys might start getting a lot shorter when books realize like, oh crap, they're going to finish 3rd in the regular season standings, go into the chase, 100 something points above the 16th place guy. And they're going to be there till the end, with a shot, maybe as we go to Martinsville or Darlington, towards the back end of that chase.
Yeah. No, and it'll be, I think if we, and maybe it's like one book starts manipulating stuff and we can kind of get ahead of it, but it will be interesting to watch over the next couple months to see if there is movement in the lines, see how things are going, and see what happens from there. I do want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Win the Race. They have some incredible tools, as Brian and I talk about on every episode. Their Discord is absolutely incredible. People are talking 24/7 in there. NASCAR bets, NASCAR thoughts, big picture stuff, news, futures. Like there's so much conversation going in there that your subscription like is worth that alone. You get some NASCAR fans, you get some smart people talking, you get some bets. Brian and I and Phil, we're all in there. You also like get all the tools every week, where they're running 1,000 simulations or 100,000 simulations to get you the best numbers. They also introduced multiple games this year. There's a one and done, and there's a draft game, which based on the show that the Phil's on every week. And it's incredible. And there's a chance to win like real prizes. It's pretty awesome.
And then let me add too, like they introduced a like data set of where you no longer have to go to driver averages or racing reference, because you can go back and look at drivers' past history at a specific track type, specific track. You get to select what years they are. Now he's introducing a tool that is soon to be launched that where track comparison, where it's going to be able to tell you like which tracks best compare to this particular track, engine package, tire package, like the stuff that's offered there is more than worth the price of admission. And I mean, the Discord alone, still my favorite part of it.
Yeah, like he's literally saving lives out here. Like not having to go on Racing Reference and close 27 pop-ups, going on driver averages and clicking through multiple tabs. I mean, 3 hours of work is going into like 20 minutes. Like it's great. And you can have fun and you can switch things quickly. Like I'm so excited to use all the tools as the season rolls along, both for betting and for DFS. So very, very excited about that.
Last thing about the Discord, a perfect example of this morning, as soon as the announcement came out that NASCAR decided to change the Roval to the oval, everybody in the Discord was alerting everyone else that Shane Van Gisbergen's win totals were still listed at 3.5 with the under juice to like plus 155 in some places and still plus 160 at the time, to where you really only need him to F up at one of the 4 road courses. That number was available maybe for 20 minutes, half an hour after the Discord started popping off. And that's the type of stuff that you get in there.
Yeah. If you're betting if you're betting pole bets, if you're betting fastest lap, the markets that go up and are obliterated within 20 minutes, the Discord's a great place to be because those conversations happen quickly. People fire, numbers have moved, especially if you're betting at 365 or other popular books for more casual fans. Highly recommend getting in there. It more than pays for itself throughout the season. So can't pump that up enough.
He has worked so hard this off season too.
Yeah.
Like if I was him, I took such a lazy off season. I didn't even open X. Meanwhile, Ryan and Greg have been working very hard to just like, how can we be better? And if you have that Discord, it's almost like, what do I need to be better for? Like, this is great. But instead, they're doing all these improvements. They're putting games together to match the show, to have more engagement, like with the show, and it's just unbelievable. And he'll sometimes be like, "Yep, I'm going to try something in the morning time," and then like in the afternoon, it's like, "Here it is." And today, the example of the imagine when we go to Chicagoland this year, like that comparison chart is going to come in huge when we get there. So. Just great stuff. Yeah, we're jocking Ryan. I'm sure his ears are bleeding somewhere, but yeah,
I know, right? But like he could easily, like you said, he could easily just rest on his laurels and be like, I have an awesome community I'm building. The tools work just fine. They've been great to us, but he's constantly working on making them improve. So highly recommend getting in there early, do the season long, get you some access throughout the year. And I think between DFS and betting, and obviously our great shows, it'll hopefully win some cash. Let's talk some Bowman Grey. Do we think we get it in with all the snow in the East Coast? And if not, is it just going to be like, well, so what? Or do you think they're going to work some way to make it back there?
I'll answer first. Being on the East Coast, I today sucked. It was awful. And there are rumblings that we're going to get more snow like this weekend. And so it's just, I don't know. If the forecast does look like more, it wouldn't shock me in this like new mini age of like making people happy to just like pivot to Daytona. Like, just like do something where it's like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like they're actually going to try. So I think they're going to do everything they can to try to get the Clash in. But if they were to pivot to Daytona, that would be a good silver medal. And this is just me spitballing. I'm just,
it definitely feels like there's a pivot opportunity there. It sounds like they're going to be snowing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It feels really hard. And I don't think like the West Coast would make so much more sense because I don't know about Brian, but like I think it was 60 degrees here today. It was beautiful. Brian's down in like Southern San Diego. It's probably like 75, 80.
It was 75 here today.
But like, I don't think moving it out to the Coliseum or something, at least at this point, is realistic. But like Daytona or something like that could make some sense, assuming the weather's going to cooperate down there.
Yeah, I'll add having been at the Coliseum the year that they made the last second decision to run the race the same night that they were doing all the practice and the LCQ stuff, which was shocking to say the least. I mean, to everybody around the sport, fans too. I mean, and that was for a rainstorm, which at the time, and living out here on the West Coast, like when we get rain like that, yes, it is like Armageddon. And so, you know, they made the split decision then. And I do think that they're probably discussing, you know, secondary options here for Bowman Gray in two ways, in which they make it there and then they have to decide run the races with a random draw or something of that nature on the day that they're supposed to do the LCQs, or as Phil said, pivot and just head straight to Florida, where it's probably still going to be cold, but they're not going to be getting any snow.
Yeah. Do you guys like, I don't want to say do you care, because obviously it's NASCAR, it's fun to talk about, but like if we didn't have it, like, would it be the end of the world? No. But is it fun to see cars on track? Yeah.
It would be no skin off my back. I like you said, the only reason it's fun is I don't bet on it. It's fun to see cars on track. That's it. To me, if they wanted to all hop on simulators and do a NASCAR 25 run or something like that, it'd be just as entertaining to me.
That would be sick.
But you know, it is what it is. Like I know if I was local and I was going to Bowman Gray, like that's sick, right?
Yeah,
I would be pumped about that, but I'm not. So, you know, it doesn't matter to me. 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other to me.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people in the area love that track, and there's obviously a lot of history and a lot of excitement around it as they like seeing cars go there. But yes, I think something like simulators with all cameras and they all have little microphones and they're talking to the broadcast people, like that would be cool. And I think a unique way to get newer NASCAR fans to get on board. So that way, and then as the season rolls along, maybe they can even do that and then do like an all-star race type version and like, or do them like quarterly or something. I think that could be really fun.
This is going to sound absolutely crazy, but I mean, it's almost a throwback. Yes, it's been that long, to the COVID time when we did have racing on iRacing during the time when guys weren't allowed to go to the track and stuff. And honestly, that's kind of where our passion for the sport germinated, was during that time when there was nothing else happening. And it's like, oh, NASCAR is still running. Like maybe that's another interesting and unique way for them to still run this event and continue the path of trying to engage newer non-fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. We talked a little Bowman Gray. That probably won't happen, but we'll see. We talked some trucks. We talked some Cup. Phil, is there any other hot takes, any bets, anything you're looking at, anything you're really excited about, just general? The floor is yours. Promote your podcast, do all the things, but let us know, like, where's your head at? Where do you want to, what do you want to bet? What do you want to talk about? Like, go off.
So I'm going to have my preview show next week. It was going to be tomorrow night. I'm going to have the guys from a Top the Pit Box fantasy game. I don't know if you guys play that, but
awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to grab those guys. We postponed it a week, so it'll be out next week. But one of the things I'm going to talk about from the gambling side of things before I bring those guys on, and you know, anxious to hear you guys take on this. But a driver that I'm trying to pull up the current odds right now. A driver that I am high on coming into the year right now, where it feels like low risk, high reward situation, is Tyler Reddick. I think Tyler Reddick is someone that we might be able to get lower odds. So you have the odds up right there. What's he at? 1,800? 18 to 1? Is that what that says?
18 if I could drop my mic right now, I would.
So is that an agree or disagree?
Brian and I, we made a bet after last week's episode regarding the one Tyler Reddick. Brian is pro Tyler Reddick. I am going against Tyler Reddick.
Okay.
I am on team Joey Logano for 2026. $100 to the winner, whoever finishes higher in the chase.
Okay.
And-
All right.
And expanding further on that, I've made 2 championship futures bets. One of them was Tyler Reddick, who I got him in Vegas at 20.
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
that, and those are the guys, right? So we will not have the benefit of like home run bets at Martinsville anymore. Like, those types of things.
Yeah.
So if we're going to get a long shot, and we don't have like long shot Final Four, Championship Four guys anymore. So
we do have, what was I looking at? They have top 3 now. And you can get him at plus 475 to be among the top 3 in the final championship standings.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if they just dropped those recently, but they definitely didn't have them last time we talked.
Yeah. This looks like it's an updated. I'm seeing match bets. I'm seeing
yeah, they got a few different things. They got Bowman versus Busher. They have, I wonder if they have our matchup, Brian. Oh, they do not. Byron
I'm
versus
just
Bowman.
praying that more books open up some markets like this. I mean, shouts to Caesars, who, yes, it sucks that they're stealing an extra dime from us in terms of the hold, but shouts to them for having all these markets open when like FanDuel just dropped their championship odds like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
This is all hitting me brand new right now. I'll finish my thought on Tyler Reddick and then kind of pivot into somebody else on his team. But Reddick, to me, guys, like he showed once before he can win the regular season points. So he has that consistency in him. Last year was super weird with personal stuff, the lawsuit, all that happening. You saw Bubba kind of taking off. So like that kind of, I would have to say as a teammate, like you're like, oh shit. But
Yeah.
I heard his crew chief, and I'm going to get into this a little bit more on my show, where I can be like super long-winded, but I loved everything I heard from his crew chief in an off-season interview on NASCAR radio, where the host gave him an out to be like, lawsuit, excuse, and he was like, no, like we missed it, and we haven't missed a day of work. We have been in the shop, like basically, they haven't taken an off season, and it's because of how bad they missed it last year. So all of that combined, you throw all the distractions out the window. You have a team that's like not making excuses for themselves. And we saw that they could do it before from a consistency standpoint, regular season. So Reddick is somebody that I'm interested in. But boys, the head-to-head season matchup, Bubba Wallace, I don't care if it's minus 200. He's going up against Josh Berry. Are you kidding me? Like that is, how are those two guys matched up together? That's crazy to me. Am I wrong? Like,
no,
yeah,
I think you nailed it.
Yeah, that market opened up. I think it was minus 115 both sides. And once again, going back to the Win the Race Discord, that was shouted out in there. And I want to say within a matter of 5 minutes, that number moved to like minus 160, I want to say it was. And it's floated out even further. So it just goes to show you like that was a gravely mismatched matchup for the season.
The one thing I will say about Tyler Reddick is I think if you are going to back him to have the season that he's clearly capable of having, I think shooting for the moon is the move. I think taking him in matchups and, top 3, top 5, we'll see what other markets we end up getting. Might be it feels like there's a lot of volatility. We know when he's at his best, he's good enough to win or to be among the elite options. But we saw last year when things go wrong, they can go pretty wrong. I also think our expectations and opinions of him versus what he actually did, while he definitely wasn't hitting marks, I think he had a little bit better of a 2025 than I think we want to give him credit for. I know I want to give him credit for. So I think, a little hindsight review goes, oh, he actually was, especially towards the end, it was starting to come back together where you could see a world where he all of a sudden is in 2026. He's off and running, but I'm still convinced Joey Logano is going to have the year. And I honestly, with the new format, like I want him to win the championship so stinking bad because I think it would be hilarious.
That is funny.
That is the difficult part about our head-to-head bet, Phil, is that I am also rooting for Logano to like shove it to everybody and like win the championship, because it would just be so funny that they changed the format away from the playoffs that everybody says is the only reason why Logano was able to win, and he goes out and he wins the chase.
Have we ever seen anything like that before, Jimmy Johnson? They basically got rid of the chase because of him and then went out and won the playoffs. So it wouldn't be crazy to see that happen.
Does it feel to you like the Logano Reddick is that last viable playoff or chase champion that you could actually get to? Like, we're not betting Zilich at 22.
My God, no.
Would you consider Chastain at 33? Would you consider Gibbs at 45 or Bowman at 45? Or like, is there any longer shots that you would even like potentially take a shot on? Or is it really just like the first handful of names and then you're really kind of getting like when you get into the chases, Reddick and Logano, that's kind of the end of the line?
I think realistically that's the end of the line. I'm not really interested in Chastain. I mean, the number's good, like, because if you see Chastain rip off a few wins, then that number is going to drop.
Yeah.
These are droppable numbers. We can get some value and maybe a cash out. I don't remember if Caesars offers that or not, but
they do.
The only guy that I would, if I had to make a case, I would say Bubba at 50-1, because like he's not proven, but he's on an upward trajectory, and he's another one that has the weight of all that BS out of the way, and so now he's able to build upon that season that he just had, and so 50-1. Like, little cup of coffee.
I think that's interesting. I also think one less road course is helpful for him. Obviously, we've seen him make strides there, but he's still got a long way to go out of road course, where someone like Reddick, I could see taking a lot more advantage of that. But I think Bubba is interesting. And honestly, like if you wanted to sell me the Ross Chastain story under like a Tyler Reddick premise where everything hits and he's awesome and he's winning races, like I could envision that, and I'm getting almost double the price. I think Reddick's better and I think he's more consistent, so obviously he's priced accordingly. But like if you told me everything hits and this guy wins a championship, we saw Ross in the Final Four, we saw Ross beat all of the playoff cars in a non-playoff season when they clearly have souped up like abilities. His talent is good. It's just a matter of what does Trackhouse look like with Zilich, with SVG, with what is that situation?
I'm scared. Sorry, Brian. I'm scared for him. I think it's the same as what I mentioned with the trucks and McAnally. At a much higher level. Like I think the Zilich hype is crazy. Everyone's talking about how SVG is improving. I'm scared that there's too many cooks in that kitchen and Ross is going to be the odd man out, but I'm cheering for him more than, the other two. But sorry, Brian.
No, that's I was just going to say, so I basically said the same exact thing when we did our like championship preview show last week, where Chastain to me has kind of, yes, they jettisoned Daniel Suarez, and you would think that Chastain would retain his spot like atop that team. But I do think the investment in Connor Zilich, them still wanting the promotion and the exposure that SVG gives them, has actually made Ross fall into that 1B category, possibly even the third wheel in that team, with him not being able to parlay like his early success with Trackhouse into improvement over the last couple of years. Like I can definitely see a world where they're actually starting to quiet quit the Watermelon Man and the one, and they start moving more towards just Zilich and SVG, and Chastain just becomes the afterthought of that team eventually if he's not winning here early in 2026.
Yeah, there's definitely a world where he's just like jettisoned after this season if he's not winning races and being super competitive, and especially if they're like, it's getting expensive and we really want to put our money into these two guys and we would like to, I could see that being the case. Well, this conversation was incredibly fun. Phil, it was awesome to have you on the pod for the first time and hopefully not the last time, because like I said, the conversation was great. We'll definitely try to have you back throughout the season to give us an update on trucks, to give us some of your cup thoughts and more. Go ahead and pimp the podcast one more time. Tell everybody where they can find you on the X Machine and all that good stuff.
Yeah, but before I do that, just have to thank both of you guys again. Hopefully we can do some home and homes throughout the year, and you guys jump on with me. And also, just have to give you guys props for the amount of work that you guys put in on a week-to-week basis when we're in season. You guys, I think, are the only show that has a show post-qualifying. And it's so nice to be able to wake up and listen to your thoughts about what happened and DFS plays and, the breakdowns there. And that's a difficult thing to do, and to commit to that, it's just so much power to you guys. So thank you for the shows that you put on and gearing up for this season. I'm really pumped. Full Tank with Phil again is the podcast, and YouTube for some truck conversations, and obviously on we mentioned Win the Race a bunch, the draft on Wednesday nights. I'm the current champ. I'm gonna have my ring in the mail pretty soon, so I'll be flat.
Nice.
Episode 1. So yeah, very excited for this year, and thank you both guys. This is great.
For sure. So we will link to all of Phil's stuff down in the comments and in the bio about the episode. We will also be having Phil back, as well as jumping on his pod whenever he will have us. Very excited about all of that. Make sure you are checking out Win the Race. Get in the Discord. Get in now. Get some of those future bets locked in. Join the games. Let's have some fun this season. It's a long season. It's a grueling season, but we can win some money in the process. We can have a hell of a lot of fun doing it. And Brian and I will be back next week with some predictions, some excitement, and then we'll be off and running. It'll be Daytona week, and then it'll be the All-Star week, and then we'll be talking about whoever won the chase at the end of the year. So I'm very, very excited to jump into it. Can't wait to get to the end. For Phil, for Brian, I'm Kyle. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll talk to you guys next time.